Hello everyone, welcome, my name is Phoenix and this is the Consumer's Guide to Video Games. The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, 2023, Nintendo. The Legend of Zelda is an open-world adventure RPG game where the player takes control of noble knight Link. Taking place sometime after the events of Breath of the Wild, Link and Princess Zelda start exploring the depths underneath Hyrule Castle. While there, the two discover and awaken a mummy that saps Link of his power, destroys the Master Sword, and sends Zelda through time. With his prized weapon broken and Zelda nowhere to be found, Link must now explore the lands of Hyrule and assemble an army to stop whatever evil is coming. I'm sorry, nerds. I'm sorry, but this isn't like the goated masterpiece that you think it is. Like, it's good. But it's not even as good as Breath of the Wild. Gameplay-wise, this game is pretty much just Breath of the Wild again. Same sort of structure and things to do, but done slightly differently. You run around doing puzzles and shrines, helping the 4 key races of Hyrule with their issues, and working your way towards the eventual fight with the big bad guy. This time though, you get these new powers such as telekinesis, fusing things together, time manipulation, and phasing through objects above you. All of these powers are incorporated into the gameplay, and if you remember that you have them, they can aid you immensely. Look, I'm not gonna deny that at this game's best, this game can be quite relaxing and fun to play. When you finally get some good momentum going, you can get lost in doing all the side things and exploring the world and whatnot. The combat in the game, when you can't simply avoid fighting things, is incredibly fun. The controls are responsive and the fighting requires attention and reflexes, as well as preparedness in terms of resources. Further, the level design and the imagination that went into the set pieces and temples was really cool. I really dug the times I had to fly around and fight giant monsters in the sky. I loved how the bosses made perfect use of your abilities and required you to fight them intelligently. I'm sorry to say, this game is just nowhere near as good as Breath of the Wild, like I said. Firstly, my biggest gripe with this game is that it's kinda too big for its own good. There's just so much to do in this game that much of it turns out to be superfluous. You don't really need to do much of it to survive the game and beat it, and much of it has nothing of value to offer in terms of developing a world. Towers, shrines, fairy homes, and whatnot can be useful for leveling up and getting stronger, but I couldn't give a flying fuck about doing any of these side quests or exploring all the sky and underground areas unless it was connected to a main quest. Even some of the main quests were irritating, consisted of just dicking around until you found something. And certain side quests are quite sneaky in that they are actually essential to the story, but seem so ancillary to the plot that you just sort of forget about them. I'll expand on this thought a bit later. Secondly, the puzzles in this game are just really lackluster. Some of them make great use of the powers and can be thoughtful and challenging. All the temples were pretty fun and required you to think about how to achieve a given objective. A good chunk of them, such as most of the shrines, are just straight up baby tier bullshit and require no thought whatsoever. I remember the shrines in Breath of the Wild having some mind-bending fucking puzzles. I also remember Breath of the Wild made actual use of the Switch itself, and you had to move your controller or system in order to achieve certain objectives. There's no real Switch movement in this game, and the difficulty of the puzzles left me wanting more. Another lackluster element of this game was the writing. Now, I'm not a Zelda nerd, and the only Zelda games I've played are this and Breath of the Wild. I'm sure one of the Zelda nerds I know, or one of the Zelda nerds that ends up watching this video, will give me some lore lesson about how this game connects to the other ones. That's lovely. I just don't care though. The story of this game, like the first one, is simple in premise. Save the damsel from the big bad who wants to destroy the world, yada yada yada. But the minute I start thinking about any details of this story, my head starts to just go numb. The minute you introduce time travel, you know your story has just devolved into nonsense. Like, I'm praying if I go back to Breath of the Wild, I will notice details that set the story up. Otherwise, I can't even begin to think of how any of this connects and ties into that game. Further, because of the absolute enormity of this game, the pacing of the story is just absolutely glacial. Breath of the Wild just seemed more efficient to me. I don't know. It's been a while since I've played it. Once you start the quests with all the races of Hyrule and get the geoglyph thing started, you're trapped for hours just dicking around and grinding and traveling land just to get shit moving. Certain main quests I completely ignored until late in the game because they seemed so unimportant and ineffectual. I had no fucking interest in exploring underground, but I fucking had to in order to get to the end of the game. By the time I actually got to the final boss, which was really fun, it was one of those mono-a-mono sort of fights, and then you ride a giant dragon to fight another giant dragon. It was pretty badass, I gotta say. Like, I'm sorry, I just sadly wanted to end the game. Like, I just wanted it to fucking end. Thankfully, the art design of the game is something that is consistently great through and through. The art style is this very cel-shaded, cartoony sort of vibe, and I love how the graphics engine enhances it. The physics of the world and the smoothness of the textures make every character model and environment pop. The designs of these worlds and characters as well are all very unique and memorable. Everyone's got their own shtick, really. We got the hammerhead shark people, the tan desert muscle mommies, the fast and bulbous rock people, the elven Hylians, the bird people. It's very imaginative, it's fun. But the standout in this game is the score. This score is incredibly eclectic and memorable, combining so many ideas and tones but retaining a unifying style. When exploring the world, the majority of the time you're left with nothing at times, and are just left to soak in the atmosphere of the wind and the water and whatnot. But when there is music, it isn't anything more than, plinky plonky piano ambient music sort of stuff. When there's combat, it gets a tad more boisterous and varied with the arrangement, but that's about it. The bigger fights and boss battles and key cutscenes are where the composer gets to have lots of fun though.
There are a few
memorable pieces in this game that I will have stuck in my head for a good long while. There are boss pieces such as when you encounter small parties of giant goblins, or the final fight with the dragon that sounds straight up jazzy and really have this unique atmosphere that never goes too big but always feels epic. There's also the fight with the Yiga clan boss that's just a straight up ninja rock banger. It's really fun. Overall, I think the Zelda nerds will have a blast with this game. I really do. It does everything Breath of the Wild does, and there's a lot more of it. But for me, despite its absolute best moments and the amazing score and art design, Tears of the Kingdom just came off as a bit of a slog. I may try this game again after replaying Breath of the Wild and or more Zelda games, but that might not be for a long time. Yeah, I liked it at its best, but at its worst, I just wish I were playing Breath of the Wild. Now I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 on this one. That's a bit generous, but the best parts of this game are genuinely really, really good. Catch you later, guys!